Hi friends, welcome back to Brilliant Blue Reviews. My name is Heather, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you my review of Mercy, starring Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson. The first thing I want to tell you is this is the first movie my daughter had gone to since she came back from Japan about 5 days ago. She spent a month in Japan on a J-term study abroad. And the last movie she had gone to before that was Hamnet, which we saw the night before she flew to Japan. And you can see my review of Hamnet right up here. I did want to tell you quickly that she had hoped to go to a movie in Japan to make a video for the channel about the experience of attending a movie in Japan, just like we did when we went to the movies in Germany. We actually went to the movies twice in Germany, and I made 2 videos about that. And I will link one of those up here. So if you follow me on my travel channel, Heather Travels, you know that 2 things that we like to do in every other country. One is go to the movies, and another one is go to McDonald's. Now, Megan did go to McDonald's, and I think there's going to be a video coming about that over on my travel channel. The movies and McDonald's are common experiences that pretty much anyone would have probably had. And so we like to compare them in other countries because just for our own knowledge and experience, but also to share them with the viewers because that can be really interesting to people to understand how things are different in other places. So, but she didn't have a chance to go to a movie in Japan. There were some movies that she was hoping to see, and the times just didn't fit in well. I mean, she was taking a class, so she wasn't able to do that. So I apologize for that we don't have that coming up on this channel. But if you're interested about my daughter Megan's trip to Japan, be sure to subscribe to my other channel, Heather Travels, so you can see all the videos that are going up on that channel for the next couple of months about her time in Japan. There's already 3 videos up. All right, the other thing I need to tell you before I tell you about Mercy is that Megan and I were having quite a day yesterday. We were having a whole bunch of issues with some stuff and just like normal, regular adult life stuff. And it was a very stressful, frustrating day. And we had plans to go to the movie. And when we were walking into the movie theater, we were saying, man, if this movie is bad, this is just not going to be good. You know, like we can't take anything else going wrong today. But we were actually both pleasantly surprised by how much we liked Mercy. We both really enjoyed it. I went in there with fairly low expectations because the other reviews that I saw of it were not very encouraging about how good it was. But Megan ended up giving it 5 stars, and I'm going to give it 4.5, so 4.5 stars. We were the only people in the theater besides one other couple. We were seeing it on a Monday late afternoon, early evening, so it was a pretty quiet time at the movie theater. So that was kind of nice because we were able to at least whisper to each other a little bit because there wasn't really hardly anybody else around. This movie is in real time. The whole concept is it's like the near future. And I have to say this, they have completely ignored a good portion of the United States Constitution in this movie. So they basically, without addressing that glaring issue, they've basically done away with due process, or they're really abbreviating what they're calling due process, and they've replaced the whole court process within criminal courts with an AI judge, which is played by Rebecca Ferguson. And the concept is that she doesn't make mistakes. And there might be more than one AI judge. I'm not sure. They don't actually say. And she's Judge Maddox. They're saying that the judge doesn't make mistakes. The court has everything available at its discretion because in this near future, everyone is required by law to connect all devices to this community cloud. And this movie takes place in Los Angeles, and it was filmed partially or worked on partially at Warner Brothers Studios, which we have actually been to and taken a tour of. So, which makes sense because all of the locations and everything that were like outside were all obviously filmed in Los Angeles. The basic concept is that they've made it more of a deterrent to stop people from committing crimes because they make, and this is a problem with our legal system, I will admit, they make it very swift and decisive. So you get arrested, taken before this mercy court, and you only have 90 minutes to prove your case. And if you can't prove that you're innocent in the 90 minutes with all of this data at your disposal, then you are executed immediately right then and there with some kind of sonic thing that kills you. They were saying that crime had really risen. There was a lot of civil unrest, a lot of homelessness, a lot of drug use and stuff in the near future, and crime had really gotten out of control. And by starting to use this mercy court, that it was, really discouraging people from committing crimes because it was so swift and decisive. And I think it might have only been for murder. I think that's the only thing that it was for. The movie takes place in real time. It's basically just 90 minutes. I think it might have been like an hour and 40 minutes actually, because there's a little bit of time after the court proceeding ends, I guess, and the clock stops. That stuff happens in the building where the mercy court is. That's not part of the 90 minutes. So the movie is between an hour and a half and an hour and 45 minutes long. So it's pretty quick. And it goes very fast because a lot is happening all the time. Now, this movie was also shot in 3D, and I can see how that would be very effective and impactful. I don't particularly like going to 3D movies, and I don't even think our movie theater was offering it in 3D. But there's several shots where stuff will just, Chris Pratt's character, whose name was also Chris, I think. Yeah, he's Detective Chris Raven. And he's sitting in this chair. He's strapped into this chair and can't move. And that's also where he'll be executed if he doesn't prove his innocence. As stuff would appear and they would deal with everything that was presented or whatever, the evidence and stuff, then when they don't need it anymore, it would whoosh past him. So that would have been a kind of interesting 3D thing. And then also there were times where he was almost immersed, kind of virtual reality in the scene of whatever they were looking at. They could view video that someone had taken on their phone, and it was he was right there and everything was happening around him, kind of thing. So it had some really kind of neat visual elements to it. Some people had complained, other reviewers I saw, about the fact that Chris Pratt was only in this chair, but that's not exactly true. At the mercy court, he's only in the chair. But in all the evidence that they present and everything, which are basically flashbacks, and then in stuff that happens later, he is up moving around and just being a normal person and stuff. So there's actually lots of scenes where Chris Pratt is up doing things and walking around and stuff. So he wakes up in this chair where they've put him, and Judge Maddox comes on, which is Rebecca Ferguson, and she says, "Hi, you're being tried in the mercy court, and I'm your judge, Judge Maddox, and you have 90 minutes, And it's very straightforward, and it starts right away. The crime that he's accused of committing is murdering his wife, who was found stabbed to death on the kitchen floor by their daughter when she came home from a sleepover. And the evidence does all kind of point to him very neatly. My daughter and I both had two thoughts fairly early in the movie. One thought was that all of this was fake, or at least some of it was fake. The video was actually deep fakes, and that everything that we were seeing wasn't real. That was one thought we had. Well, that was proven to be untrue. No, everything that they were looking at was actually real. The second thought we had was that someone was framing him. Okay, but I don't want to give anything away. I will tell you that there were two twists to this story. Now, at the beginning and through several places as they're showing the evidence and stuff, he's not a very likable character. He's kind of a jerk. He's an alcoholic. He's not nice when he's drinking, and he's not a great, warm, fuzzy character that you're really oh, I feel so great. I feel bad for this guy that he's going through this. It's not like that. One of the other key characters, and I don't know the actor's name, but it's a woman, and she's his partner. Another thing that we liked was his former partner was played by, I can't think of his name, but the guy who plays Chimney, or Howard Hahn on 911, the TV show, which is one of our favorite shows. And so we were excited to see that actor doing something else. The backstory is that he, Detective Raven's partner, had been killed in the line of duty, and he really struggled with that happening and how he handled it at the time and stuff. That was what kind of sent him down the road into becoming an alcoholic. But it was very interesting. It was very fast-paced. It was really kind of solving a puzzle. It was solving a murder mystery in real time, very, very quickly. And there was never any part of the movie that was slow or, boring in any way. It was just so fast. It kept you engaged the entire time. And another thing that it reminded me of was another one of our favorite TV shows, which is The Rookie. We really like that show. And every once in a while, The Rookie will do an episode where everything is like body cam footage. Like it's the body cam footage of the police officers, and it's the footage from the shop cam, you know, in their police car, and like doorbell cameras and things like that. And they just like kind of piece it all together. Like this is what all the cameras would see. Every once in a while, The Rookie does an episode like that. And that's what the style of this movie reminded me of. And I actually really like those. I think they're really good. And so that was kind of appealing to me that they did it that way. Oh, I started to say there were actually two pretty big twists in this movie. What seemed like a fairly straightforward case at the beginning ended up not being that at all. The motive for the crime ended up being very complicated, something you were not expecting from the beginning at all. And so that was a big deal. And then right at the very end of the movie, there's another really big twist. At the beginning, Megan made a guess that she said, I kind of feel like this is kind of a message about police brutality. And it kind of was, but it also was kind of more about like police corruption, I guess, a little bit. But then the really big message was, I think, about learning from your mistakes. It was saying that, you know, not only did Detective Raven and other people in the film learn from their mistakes, from their actions and their choices, but the AI had to learn too. So this AI judge, Judge Maddox, which was brilliantly played by Rebecca Ferguson. Now this seems like a very limited role for her because it was literally just her head and shoulders the whole time through the whole movie. She's just an image. But she was perfect for this because her facial expressions were so subtle, but so powerful. Like there was one point where, you know, she talks about in the movie, she says like, I don't have any emotions. I don't feel. But she doesn't talk like a robot. She talks like a pretty, you know, human-like AI. But Megan said she almost seems angry. Like in a couple spots, she would almost seem like she was angry with something. And then there were a couple spots where you would see just the most imperceptible twitch of her mouth. And it was very powerful how they did that, or how she did that. And I think she was a really good pick. And then about 2/3 of the way through the movie, you know, you kind of start to see an attitude change in Judge Maddox and how she's approaching this case. And I whispered to Megan, I said, that's the thing about AI. Artificial intelligence is by design supposed to continually be learning and becoming more intelligent. So even though this judge, this AI judge, was programmed a certain way, by design, artificial intelligence is supposed to constantly be becoming more intelligent. And so by the end of the movie, Judge Maddox, the AI judge, had to admit that she too learned something. So that was kind of interesting, and I felt like that was the overall theme of the movie, was kind of learning from your mistakes. And, you know, not to make assumptions about things because they might be wrong. It was a really good movie. Again, Megan gives it 5 stars, and I give it 4.5 stars. It was very enjoyable, highly entertaining. Definitely worth seeing in the movie theater on the big screen because of all the visual effects. I don't know if you would get the full effect of it and the full impact if you tried to watch it on a TV. So I would encourage you to get out to see Mercy in the theater if you can. This movie was rated PG-13, I believe, for mostly language, adult themes, and some action-y violence. Thank you for watching this review of Mercy. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did or found it helpful in any way, please be sure to give me a thumbs up down below and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming movie reviews. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.